Every drop has a story, every source has a voice. From the tap to the table, we bring the facts into focus. Let's talk water. Bring water into focus. Let's talk water with Nolan Pinto.
So, welcome to Let's Talk Water with Nolan. Over here, we really like to talk about water. Everything and anything to do with water, from water policies to water conservation, and much more. I'm Nolan Pinto, and I have with me Jaswanth here today. Thank you so much for joining us, Jaswanth.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Looking forward to the interaction.
Same here, Jaswanth. So now, Jaswant, a few days ago when we spoke, you were telling me about a very interesting concept of the water ATM and how it is actually benefiting the people and how you all actually started doing that and the challenges that you had to go through before it was completely implemented. Why didn't you take us through this or walk us through this and how you started it in the first place?
Right. Firstly, I would like to thank State Bank of India Foundation's Youth for India program for giving me the opportunity to work with remote communities in India. So I was placed with an organization called Barefoot College during the fellowship program 10 years ago in 2016. And I came here as a civil engineer who knew very little about the rural India. So I wanted to work on water, but I didn't really know what I can do about it because of because of lack of expertise in anything and everything to do with water. So I wanted to learn, I wanted to research, I wanted to understand the situation in the rural communities. Really wanted to experience it firsthand before doing anything. So I started talking to people, spending time with them, living with them, um, trying to understand their consumption patterns, what is where do they get water for drinking, for domestic and agricultural purposes. So thanks to the water department that's housed at Barefoot College, I had an opportunity to go from one village to another, trying to get samples and then immediately coming back to the campus and testing it. So with that, I understood that the drinking water that people are consuming across the rural areas uh, in Ajmer district and Jaipur district. So it's high in different concentrations of total dissolved solids, fluorides, chlorides, hardness, etc. So it's way higher than desirable or the permissible limits that have been set by Bureau of Indian Standards or World Health Organization. So I was shocked to see that in the first place that people are consuming non-potable water for drinking. And yeah, the first question again, why isn't government doing anything about it? So and I kept going to different departments to understand. But again, rural communities, they don't have piped water connections. So everyone's on their own, right? They either depend on open wells or depend on hand pumps for drinking. And whenever I go and ask any person in the rural areas, what is your biggest challenge? And everyone, across age groups always tell me that it's about water. So it's not like people are not aware that they don't have access to safe and clean drinking water. They are very much aware of it. But still, it's that uh, it's the lack of access to anything that makes them dependent on whatever is available, which is the hand pumps or the open wells. And we are talking about some of the most marginalized communities over here, who belong to the lower caste, where they survive on minimum wages through Manrega or other construction work. So they buying water, an option of buying water is not there in their cards.
Jaswant, I'm
So,
a little
and that
confused over
made me
here. Now, I'm a bit confused over here. I'm going to stop you
yeah,
here for 1 minute because you said that people know that they're drinking unsafe water, not clean water. My point is, we do
yeah,
have a government. We do have local
yeah.
authorities and this Zilla Panchayats and Taluk Panchayats. Didn't they know that these people from the marginalized community were drinking unsafe water? And you're talking about
They
fluoride.
absolutely know. Yeah. everyone's absolutely aware. Just understand that if a common man, or a common woman is aware, a common person is aware, so like we can really understand that even the authorities would definitely be aware, right? And but then the problem is they don't have reliable data to back it, and then it's inconsistent, it's improper, it's never publicly shown that okay, this is the concentration of water. So, because there's no publicly available data, like what Barefoot College did was to have all the data open source, in around 200 villages in Jaipur and Ajmer district, so that like anyone can like open the website and then see the quality of water in their own village. And we also go there to make sure that people are aware. So there have been many government programs, for even for fluoride, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to the motivation of the local authorities to implement it, in a proper way or not, because it's not an incentive based program, right? Like any other schemes where like the funds flow through the panchayats. So here it's mostly about awareness. So we never really know how accountable these people are in order to spread awareness about fluoride in drinking water.
But
And
Jaswant,
there's
what
no
is the
alternative.
reason? But what's the reason for this contamination? Did you actually find that out?
So yeah, it's natural rock, under the surface of this particular region. So because the water table is going down by the day, excess
Mm,
consumption for the agricultural purposes. So the water table goes down and down, which means that the rock that's
mm.
there at that particular the aquifer. So it's a natural fluoride rock, and that is leading to the increase in the fluoride concentration. So 10 years ago, if the same water has 1 or 1.5 ppm of fluoride in the groundwater, so today it's probably 3 or 3.5, because the water table is only going down. It's not replenishing.
Okay.
So that's the reason. It's natural rock bed.
Mm.
Yeah.
So what did you do to actually solve this for those particular villages?
Right. So we try to understand. So we like I told you, we kept testing water for around 200 villages in this region. So we categorized the quality of water into three different categories. So where there's excess fluoride, we mapped it as red area, and then where there's like mildly high fluoride concentration, we marked it as yellow, and like where the water is potable and like safe to drink, like it's green in color. So, and then we chose the ones that are in red, the villages that are in red. And then we happened to go to one village, which is called Badgaon. And over there we tried, we spoke to every household in the community to understand. And everyone, so everyone says that, they face somewhat the other issue, right? They may not directly attribute it to water. But like whenever I ask them, do you have joint pains? Like everyone has joint pains,
Mm.
and especially the older ones, because
Symptoms,
due to
yes.
fluoride, you have to, yeah. So due to fluoride, you have two different types of waterborne diseases. One is dental fluorosis to start with,
Mm.
and then with exposure over years, you have like skeletal fluorosis. So the first visible signs are your teeth, they start like turning from white to pale yellow to reddish, and then after a certain point, it drops off with like continuous exposure. And then the unseen aspect of it is like the joint pains and all of that, which is not visible. You can only feel it, right? Like the person who's facing it can feel it. So, like under the desirable limit, it's actually good. The reason why even toothpaste have fluoride in it is because, it strengthens your teeth, the gum and all of that. So, up to a certain quantity, it's actually good. But beyond that, it's very unsafe, and that's what's been happening in the rural areas of like Rajasthan here. So when we went there, like we spoke to each and every household, we tried to understand their drinking pattern, the household level consumption every day. So it came up to like somewhere around 2,000 liters per day. Is the whole village's water consumption for drinking, only for drinking. So we designed a water treatment plant, so that can dispense safe and clean drinking water for up to 2,500 liters per day. So just to add like a factor of safety. And then along with the community's contribution, because we didn't want it to be some as a donation, as a charity, right? Because they understand, they are the ones facing issues with it. So we wanted to be a community based program. So like where we do it together. So Barefoot College in collaboration with the community of Padgaon. So we implemented this, like we designed it, we manufactured it, and then we installed it. So the expense had come up to somewhere around 4 lakh rupees. Where Barefoot had contributed 2 lakhs, and the community, and this is a very big amount for community contribution, right? It's usually 10% or 5% in like various programs. But you just imagine that, they are so much aware that, that they need this. So
No, I
they
understand, but
pitched in like 50%.
how
Yeah.
did you convince them to actually give you money? Because you're saying what, almost 200,000, 2 lakh rupees? Convincing them
Yeah.
itself, it's going to
2
be
lakh rupees,
would have been
200,000. Yeah.
extremely difficult.
It didn't really take so much of convincing, actually, to be honest. They needed it. It's not a luxury, right? They understood that, especially for the future generations, because fluoride, the fluorosis effect is irreversible. If someone's teeth had turned yellow in color, you can't get back to white. Or like if someone started facing skeletal fluorosis, you cannot come back again. So it's irreversible changes it does to your body. So, thinking about the future generations, their kids and then their grandchildren's, like everyone pitched in without the need of so much convincing. It only took many meetings, many behavioral change meetings, because we didn't want that water to go waste in any way. Like we didn't want people to come and scrub their burtan and all of that. And then we didn't want people to use this for like any other purpose other than just
Only for
drinking
the
and cooking.
purpose of drinking,
So
yes.
yeah, yeah. So that those meetings took time, but like it didn't take convincing at all. Because they repaired the community building. It was an abandoned building for many years. They repaired it. They got the tanks that are needed to house this, safe drinking water, and then all the pipelines and everything. Only the manufacturing cost and everything, Barefoot took care of it. So that's the water treatment plant that's been installed. So the water ATM has a different story to it.
True, but I really want to know about something else that you found out because when we spoke last time, you told me about a wall. After you set this up, you actually saw a wall
That's right.
with two separate pipes. I mean, that was two things, interesting as well as shocking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It came as a major shock to me. So like a few months after installing this plant, so this was installed and commissioned in like somewhere around November of 2017. That's towards the end of my fellowship program is when like we implemented it. And probably in Jan or February, when I was just passing through that village to go to another village, I just wanted to go there and see, and talk to like the operator, because again, I missed out on one point, where it's that knowledge transfer was extremely important for this plant to sustain. So whoever was operating the plant, we had like extensive training programs for a week, for 10 days, for 15 days, how much longer it took, so that the plant runs for like a very long time without having any repairs or etc. So I just wanted to go and meet that operator. So I went there, and then I saw so it's like a plant housed in a building, and then you just have these pipes coming out of the building where people can come and fill it up. So we had like three pipes, three outlets where people can come. So there were two outlets to one side and one outlet to another side, and there was a wall in between. So I naturally questioned, but this was not there, when we had put in. We just put a surface so that people can put their like balti or like any other container, and then like they fill the water. But this wall came as a shock. I asked them, why? So there was no direct answer. I asked like few other people also. No one directly told me, oh, it's just like kids will take from the other side, and then the adults will take from this side and all of that. But I understand that it had to do with the caste, where they segregated it, all the upper caste communities will be taken from one side, and then the other marginalized communities of SC and ST people, will be taken from another side. So I said, this is not done. It came as a very big shock, because this is water. It's like everyone needs it, so how can caste divide, someone for water? And then what we did was we made it, we completely automated the process. So we converted the same water treatment plant to installing just another machine to make it a water ATM, where we distributed RFID cards to every household in the village, and one tap. with that RFID card, like, you get 20 liters of water. So now there's only one outlet, like, there's only one point where everyone has to come and tap, and then you just put your container at the bottom, and then you get 20 liters of water for 2 rupees. So fortunately, there have been no fights after that. Like, people understood, like, that, okay, this is a new system, like, everyone, it was also good, right? Like, you're just tapping it and the water is coming out. So it was fascinating. So, like, this also solved, like, the money collection part, like, so this operators, one of the role was also to go and collect money every month, like, from each household. So now with this RFID card, like, what happened is everyone has to recharge like the RFID with their own money, like using UPI or any other application. So if at all anyone wants to get water, you just recharge the card and then, like, you get water. So, like, now the operator is extremely happy. Like, he's like, okay, I don't get to go to every household every month to collect money. So this is like a good thing for him. But, like, major thing is, like, it changed the whole caste part. Like, that the differentiation over here, like, has been like, yeah, so completely gone. Like, they might still practice, but at least in this central space where people come and collect water, that divide is not there anymore.
No, it's very, very interesting what happened. Actually, it's I don't know if you can call it behavioral change or that caste system is so deeply engraved in people's hearts that even when it comes to water, you can do this.
Yeah.
But all right, this system, this water ATM that you've actually set up, is it only in that one particular village, or have you actually gone to different villages, different states?
Yeah. So, like, we waited for a few years to see if this would work. Like, again, it's a very community driven concept, right? Like, in order for this to run for a longer time, community has to step in. And here, like, they've stepped in. Like, even today, like, 9 years after the installation, I'm glad that it's still working. Like, I still go there, I meet people, and so we waited for 3 4 years to see, like, whether it will work or not. And then, like, we did implement it in another 4 to 5 villages in this particular region itself. So near Sambar Lake, so there's a Sambar Lake here in, like, Jaipur district. So, and it's very famous for the salt mining, etc. So the water is extremely contaminated with very high TDS. So TDS, like, it's generally desirable limit is 500 parts per million and permissible limit is 2000 parts per million. But in that region, it goes up to 6,000, 7,000 parts per million. So over there, like, we tried implementing it, and again, fortunately, we followed the same concept, like, we followed the same process and approach, and it's still working. The same water ATM concept, where people have taken it up themselves because water is something they definitely see it as a need, and it's their first priority. They believe that, like, water is their first priority. So yeah, it's
All right.
working very well in these 5 6 villages here.
Now, to say congratulations, because it's not easy to actually come out with a tech, fix it, and hope that it actually runs for a few years. And you're talking about what, 9 years, which is fabulous. I mean, you would have done something really good from the BCC or behavioral change within the community, and also explaining how it works. But now tell me one thing: if a policymaker was actually listening right now, what's one thing about last mile water access that large infrastructure projects keep going or getting wrong?
Right. Like, I mean, I feel that decentralization is the key. Like, you don't, again, like, when it comes to a last mile village, definitely policymakers or, like, like, any other bureaucrats, like, that wouldn't be their first priority, right? So, like, it's always a data-driven insight, like, for better decision making. And it never has to be, like, like, target driven or, like, numbers driven. So just for an example, like, like, every household probably might have connection right now, like, water pipeline connection to their household. It's one of the programs. But, like, do they have water coming out of those pipes is a big question, right? At least that's what we are seeing over here. So what's the point of, like, just putting a pipe connection where there is no water? So it's both, like, infrastructural mishap and, like, you're not basing that pipeline connection. You're not, like, correlating it with whether you have a storage first, whether you have that water facility in that particular village or like in that particular panchayat where water can be dispersed over there. So like if at all like like my conversations with policymakers and like if at all something you know a village's problem can be solved at the village level itself. So that's what I believe. Like where you can create storage. There are traditional water sources in every village, and if we can revive them, we can rejuvenate them. Most of the water availability concerns will be solved there and then itself. You don't need kilometers long pipelines coming from somewhere else to fit in the households in like X village in like which is very far away from the source. So source can be created in the nearby place, and the water availability will be solved. And for water quality, it's data. Without data, you cannot do anything about it, because most of the things, when we see like a bottle of water, you don't really see what's in it, right? No one would know like whether this is contaminated or whether this is potable or whether this is non-potable. So there has to be like a process measuring the water quality at least 3 times in a year, covering 3 seasons, like pre-monsoon, monsoon, and post-monsoon, like which is winters, monsoon, rainy season, and summers. And making sure, because like having access to safe and clean drinking water is a human right. It's a basic human right, and it's the responsibility of the governments, it's the responsibility of the people collectively to come together and then solve that issue. Yeah, that's what I think.
Jaswanth, thank you so much for this. I hope that you actually come to Karnataka down south. North Karnataka is barren at times. I've traveled over there, I've seen how people struggle, and many villages actually have an issue when it comes to contamination, especially fluoride. So please do come to Karnataka. Please do come to North Karnataka and uh, set up your water ATM over there.
Right, absolutely, I'll stay in touch with you, and we'll see like what we can do together. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity, Nolan.
Let's talk water. Bring water into focus. Let's talk water with Nolan Pinto.